The massive alien fleet hung in space like deadly stars around the small human mining station. General Vexathera stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the pathetic human outpost through the main viewing screen. Her 4 arms crossed behind, her back as she studied the weak defenses. 3 weeks, she said to her second-in-command. These humans have lasted 3 weeks longer than expected. Commander Zaltok nodded his scaled head. Their weapons are old and weak. Their shields fail, more each day. Why do they not surrender? Vexathera had asked herself the same question many times. In her 200 years of military service, she had conquered 47 different species across the galaxy. Most surrendered after seeing the size of her fleet. The smart ones gave up before the first shot was fired. But these humans kept fighting. The Kepler mining station sat on a small moon orbiting a gas giant. It was not important. It had no special weapons or technology. It was just a place where humans dug valuable metals from the ground, yet they defended it like it was their homeworld. Send another message, Vexathera ordered. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender. The communication officer sent the message in the human language. They had learned it quickly during the siege. Human language was simple, just like their technology. On the human station, Commander Sarah Chen read the alien message on her cracked screen. She was tired. Her crew was tired. They had been fighting for 3 weeks with no sleep and little food. The station's shields were at 12% power. Their weapons were overheating. Half the crew was wounded. Same message as always, she told her staff. Surrender or die. Lieutenant Wang looked up from his damaged console. Commander, our long-range transmitter is still working. We could send a final message to Earth. Sarah shook her head. Earth is 6 months away at best speed. No one can help us now. She walked to the main window and looked out at the alien ships. There were hundreds of them. Their weapons could destroy the station in minutes if they wanted, but they seemed to enjoy the slow kill. They wanted the humans to suffer before they died. We keep fighting, Sarah said. We make them pay for every meter of this station. Back, on the alien flagship, Vexathera received reports from her ship captains. The humans had destroyed 12 attack fighters and damaged 2 cruisers. It was more than expected from such weak beings. General, said Intelligence Officer Mordan, we have been studying human communications. They have sent many messages calling for help. To who? Vexathera asked. Their nearest military base is months away. They call for something called the Fleet Command. They also mentioned something called Dreadnought Division. Vexathera laughed. The sound was like grinding metal. Dreadnoughts? These humans can barely keep their mining equipment working. Their largest warship is smaller than our fighters. She turned to address her bridge crew. The Zephyrian hegemony has conquered systems for 1,000 years. We have destroyed civilizations that had technology these humans cannot even dream of. A few miners with broken weapons will not stop us. The crew cheered, but some of the older officers stayed quiet. They had heard strange stories from the Outer Rim territories, stories about human ships that appeared from nowhere, stories about entire alien fleets that vanished without sending a distress signal. Most thought these were just tales to scare young soldiers. On the human station, the shields finally failed completely. Alarms rang throughout the corridors as explosive rounds from alien fighters began hitting the outer hull. Emergency lights flashed red as atmosphere leaked from damaged sections. Hull breach in Section 7, reported the damage control officer. We're losing air fast. Sarah grabbed an emergency breathing mask. Seal that section. Move all personnel to the inner core. The station shook as more alien weapons hit the hull. Sarah knew they had maybe an hour before the aliens broke through completely. She thought about her crew, about their families back on Earth, who would never know what happened. Here. Lieutenant Wang suddenly stood up from his console, his face pale. Commander, I'm getting something strange on the deep space sensors. What kind of strange? There's a gravitational anomaly at the edge of the system. It's big, really big. Sarah frowned. Asteroid? Comet? No, ma'am. It's artificial. And it's moving toward us. On the alien flagship, the same readings appeared on their much better sensors. Science Officer Kelvar studied the data with growing confusion. General, we have detected an unknown object entering the system. Vexathera was busy planning the final attack on the human station. Another human ship? Destroy it! No, General. This is not like their other ships. It is very large. Much larger than anything we have seen from humans. This got Vexathera's attention. She walked over to the science station and looked at the readings. The numbers made no sense. The object was huge, but it was not moving like a normal ship. Space itself seemed to bend around it. How large? She asked. At least 50 kilometers long, General. Maybe larger. Our sensors cannot get a clear reading. 50 kilometers. That was larger than most space stations. No ship should be that big. A ship that size would need the power of a star just to move. Is it a weapon? Vexithera asked. Unknown, General. It does not match any ship design in our databases. Vexithera stared at the sensor display. In all her years of conquest, she had never seen anything like this. She told herself it was probably some kind of human mining ship or space station that had broken free from its moorings. But deep inside, a cold feeling began to grow. She remembered the stories the old soldiers told, stories about human ships that should not exist. Continue the attack on the mining station, she ordered, but keep watching that unknown contact. The alien fleet moved closer to the human station, their weapons charged for the final bombardment that would kill everyone inside. Sarah Chen and her crew prepared for their last battle, not knowing that something impossible was racing toward them through the darkness of space. The strange object on the sensors continued to approach. With each passing minute, the gravitational readings grew stronger. Space-time itself seemed to ripple around the mysterious contact. On both the human station and the alien fleet, sensors began to detect something that should not exist. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about human technology. The siege of Kepler Station was about to become something much more than a simple military conquest. It was about to become the day the galaxy learned the truth about humanity's real capabilities. As the alien weapons prepared to fire their final shots, the mysterious object drew closer. And in the depths of space, reality itself began to bend. Junior tactician Kethmore was not supposed to be reading the old files. He was supposed to be checking weapon systems and preparing for the final attack on the human station. But something about the strange readings from the edge of the system made him curious. He accessed the hegemony's historical database and searched for any mention of large human ships. Most of the files said the same thing. Humans were a young species with weak technology. Their ships were small and their weapons were primitive. But buried deep in the oldest files, Kethmore found something different. Reports from the Outer Rim, from places where few Zephyrians ever went. Reports that made no sense. The first file was from a trading post near the Galactic Edge. The report was 40 years old and marked as unconfirmed. It described a human ship that appeared near a pirate base. The ship was described as impossibly large and had destroyed the entire pirate fleet in minutes. No wreckage was ever found. The pirates had simply vanished. Kethmore thought it was probably a mistake in the report. Pirates often exaggerated stories to make themselves sound more dangerous, but he kept reading. Another file from 30 years ago described a similar event. A slave trading operation had captured a human cargo ship. They were about to sell the humans when something appeared on their sensors. The file called it a ship the size of a moon. The slave traders had sent a distress signal, then nothing. When other ships arrived weeks later, they found empty space. No wreckage, no bodies, nothing. More files told similar stories. Alien fleets that vanished without a trace after encountering large human ships. Weapons that destroyed matter at the atomic level. Ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Most disturbing were the testimonies from the few survivors. They all described the same thing, human ships that were impossibly advanced, with technology that seemed to break the laws of physics. Ships that could appear from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. Kethmore's hands shook as he read the reports. If even half of these stories were true, then everything the hegemony believed about humans was wrong. He found a file from the hegemony's intelligence division. It was classified, but his security clearance was just high enough to read it. The file was titled Analysis of Terran Dreadnought Rumors. The report said that intelligence had investigated the stories about large human ships. They had interviewed survivors and analyzed the few pieces of evidence that existed. Their conclusion was disturbing. Evidence suggests the existence of a secret human military program involving ships of extraordinary size and capability. These vessels appear to operate independently of known human military forces. Purpose unknown. Threat level extreme. But the report was marked as filed, no action required by High Command. Someone had decided the stories were not important, enough to investigate further. Kethmore realized that his people had been making a terrible mistake. They had been judging human military capability based on their civilian ships and mining equipment. They had never seen what humans could really build when they needed to. He stood up to take the files to General Vexithera, but stopped when he heard her voice across the bridge. All ships, prepare for final bombardment, the general was saying. We will show these humans what happens when they resist the hegemony. Kethmore watched as hundreds of alien ships turned their weapons toward the small human station. He wanted to warn the general about what he had found, but he knew she would not listen. She was focused on the battle, not on old stories that might be true. On the human station, Commander Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet prepare for their final attack. She had moved her remaining crew to the station's core, the most protected area. They had sealed all the outer sections and put on emergency suits in case the hull was breached. "Incoming transmission," reported Lieutenant Wang. "It's not from the aliens." Sarah frowned. "Who else could be out here?" "Unknown, Commander. The signal is very weak, but it's definitely human. The encryption codes are Terran Fleet standard, but they're not in our database." Sarah activated the communication system. The voice that came through was calm and clear, with no sign of fear or stress. "Kepler Station, this is Captain Maria Vasquez of the UES Prometheus. We have received your distress calls. Please maintain position. We are en route to your location." Sarah stared at the radio. She had never heard of a ship called Prometheus. It was not on any fleet roster she knew about. "Captain Vasquez, this is Commander Chen. What is your estimated arrival time?" "We are under heavy attack and cannot hold much longer. Commander Chen, we will arrive within the hour. Please ensure your crew is secure in the station's core. Do not be alarmed by any unusual readings you might detect on your sensors." The transmission ended before Sarah could ask what kind of unusual readings the captain meant. Back on the alien flagship, Sensor Officer Kelvar was watching the mysterious object at the edge of the system. It was getting closer, and the readings were becoming more strange with each passing minute. "General," he called out, "the unknown contact is accelerating. It will reach us in approximately 50 minutes. Vexathera was busy coordinating the attack on the human station. "Can our weapons reach it?" "No, General. It is still too far away. But there is something else. The gravitational readings are unlike anything we have seen before. Space itself appears to be bending around the object." This finally got Vexathera's full attention. She had heard of gravitational weapons in theory, but no known species had the technology to build them. Such weapons would require the power of a star and technology far beyond anything in the galaxy. "Send a probe squadron to investigate," she ordered. "But keep them at maximum sensor range. Do not engage until we know what we are dealing with." As the probe ships moved toward the mysterious contact, Kethmore quietly approached the general with his files. "General, I have found some intelligence reports that you should see." Vexathara glanced at the young officer. "Not now, tactician. We are preparing for battle." "General, these reports concern large human ships that might explain what we are detecting on our sensors." Vexathara took the files and quickly scanned them. Her expression changed from annoyance to concern as she read the old reports. "These are unconfirmed stories," she said finally. "Rumors and legends. The humans we have been fighting for 3 weeks have no such technology." "But General, what if they have been hiding their real capabilities? What if the ships we have been fighting are not their military vessels, but civilian craft?" Vexathara stared at the files, then at the sensor readings of the approaching object. For the first time in her long military career, she felt a cold touch of fear. The probe squadron was now halfway to the mysterious contact. Soon they would have answers about what was approaching their fleet. Soon they would learn if the old stories about human dreadnoughts were true. As the alien weapons prepared to destroy the human station, something impossible was racing toward them through the darkness. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about humanity and their place in the galaxy. The alien weapons were charging for their final attack when every sensor in the Zephyrian fleet began screaming warnings at once. Alarms rang across hundreds of ships as their instruments detected something that should not exist. "General!" Sensor Officer Kelvar shouted over the noise. "The gravitational readings are off the scale. Whatever is out there, it's massive." General Vexathara stared at her main display screen. The numbers showed gravitational forces that were impossible for any ship. The readings suggested something with the mass of a small moon, but moving at speeds no natural object could achieve. "How close is it?" she demanded. 30 minutes out, General. But the space distortion is affecting our probe squadron. They're reporting that their instruments are failing." Across the fleet, alien crews watched their sensors in growing fear. The approaching object was bending space-time around itself like a massive black hole, but it was moving in a controlled path. Nothing in known science could explain what they were seeing. On the human station, Lieutenant Wang was staring at his damaged sensors with confusion. "Commander Chen, I'm reading massive gravitational waves incoming. Our instruments can barely process the data." Commander Sarah Chen looked at the readings and felt her heart skip. She had seen gravitational signatures before during her training, but nothing like this. The approaching object was creating distortions in space that required technology far beyond anything she knew about. "Is it natural?" she asked. Could it be a black hole that broke orbit? No, ma'am. The movement pattern is too controlled. This is definitely artificial. And Commander, there's something else. I'm detecting a human IFF signal embedded in the gravitational field. Sarah frowned. IFF meant identify, friend, or foe. It was how military ships identified themselves to each other. But the signal Wang was detecting was unlike any IFF code she had ever seen. It was complex, encrypted with algorithms that her computer could barely process. Can you decode it? Wang worked at his console for several minutes before looking up, with surprise. Commander, the IFF identifies the contact as UES Prometheus. Registration number. He paused, checking his readings again. The registration number shows this ship was commissioned 60 years ago. But that's impossible. Why? Because according to our records, no ship named Prometheus was ever built by the Terran fleet. On the alien flagship, the probe squadron was now close enough to get visual contact with the mysterious object. What they saw defied everything they thought they knew about ship construction. General, the probe commander's voice came through the communication system, filled with fear. We have visual contact. You need to see this. The main screen on Vexithara's bridge flickered to life, showing the feed from the probe ships. What appeared made the entire bridge crew fall silent. The ship was enormous beyond comprehension. It stretched for over 50 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull made of a dark material that seemed to absorb light itself. The design was unlike anything in the galactic databases, smooth curves that flowed like water with no visible weapons or engine ports. But most disturbing was how it moved through space. Reality itself seemed to bend around the massive vessel. Stars in the background appeared stretched and distorted, as if the ship was dragging space-time along with it. What are the probe ship's readings? Vexithara asked, her voice barely a whisper. General, the material composition is unknown. Our sensors cannot penetrate the hull. The power readings are... Kelvar paused, checking his instruments. General, the power output we're detecting would require a controlled black hole as an energy source. A controlled black hole. The technology to harness that kind of power was theoretical even for the most advanced species in the galaxy. Yet, here was a human ship that seemed to be using it as a simple engine. Suddenly, every communication system in the alien fleet activated at once. A message came through in perfect Zephyrian language, spoken by a calm human voice. Attention, Zephyrian. Vessels. This is Captain Maria Vasquez of the Terran Dreadnought Prometheus. You are ordered to withdraw from Terran space immediately. This is your only warning. General Vexithara stared at the screen in shock. The message had come through on frequencies that were supposed to be military secrets. No alien species should know those communication codes, yet this human had used them perfectly. How did they access our command frequencies? She demanded. Communications Officer Trendar was frantically checking his systems. Unknown, General. The signal penetrated all our security protocols as if they didn't exist. Vexithara activated her own communication system. Human vessel, this is General Vexithara of the Zephyrian Hegemony. You are interfering with a lawful military operation. Withdraw or face the consequences. The response came immediately, still in that same calm voice. General Vexithara, you have attacked a Terran civilian installation without provocation. This constitutes an act of war against Earth. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal. We outnumber you hundreds to one, Vexithara shouted. Your single ship cannot defeat our entire fleet. There was a moment of silence before the human. Captain responded, General, you are correct that we are outnumbered. However, you are making assumptions about our capabilities that may prove costly. To demonstrate our position, we will disable your probe squadron. Vexithara looked at her. Tactical display. The probe ships were still transmitting, still sending visual data of the massive human vessel. They were kilometers away from the strange ship, well beyond the range of any known weapon. Then, without any visible energy discharge or weapon fire, the probe ships simply stopped. Their engines shut down. Their weapons went offline. Their life support systems deactivated. In the space of 3 seconds, 12 state-of-the-art Zephyrian scout ships became floating metal coffins. Probe Squadron, report! Vexithara called into her communication system. Silence. Probe Squadron, respond immediately! Still nothing. Sensor Officer Kelvar was studying his readings with growing horror. General, the probe ships are still there, but they're completely dead. No power signatures, no life signs. It's as if someone reached out and simply turned them off. On the human station, Commander Sarah Chen was watching the same display with amazement. She had never seen technology that could disable ships without destroying them. The alien probe vessels were intact, but powerless, drifting in space like abandoned hulks. How is that possible? Lieutenant Wang asked. Before Sarah could answer, Captain Vasquez's voice came through their communication system again. Kepler Station, this is Captain Vasquez. We have disabled the alien reconnaissance vessels. Please maintain your position. While we resolve this situation, Sarah activated her transmitter. Captain Vasquez, how did you disable those ships? Our sensors show no weapon discharge. Commander Chen, the Prometheus carries technology that operates on principles your station's equipment cannot detect. Please remain secure. We will have you safely extracted within the hour. Back on the alien flagship, General Vex Thara stared at the tactical display showing her disabled probe ships. In 300 years of military service, she had never seen anything like what had just happened. The human ship had reached across thousands of kilometers and simply shut down her vessels without firing a shot. General, Intelligence Officer, Morden said quietly. Perhaps we should consider the withdrawal order. Vexathara's pride warred with her growing fear. The Zephyrian hegemony had never retreated from a single enemy ship. But as she looked at the readings from the massive human vessel, she began to wonder if retreat might be the only option that would keep her fleet alive. The mysterious human Dreadnought continued its approach, bending space-time around itself as it moved. Soon, it would be close enough to do to the main fleet what it had done to the probe ships, and General Vexathara was beginning to realize that all the stories about human dreadnoughts might be terrifyingly true. The UES Prometheus moved through space like a force of nature, reality bending around its massive hull as it approached the alien fleet. General Vexathara watched her tactical display with growing dread as the impossible ship closed the distance between them. General, Tactical Officer Zerkon reported, the human vessel is maintaining position at exactly 50,000 kilometers. It has stopped advancing. Vexathara felt a momentary relief. Perhaps the human ship was showing caution, after all. 50,000 kilometers was far beyond the range of most weapons in the galaxy. Her own plasma cannons could barely reach half that distance with any accuracy. All ships maintain defensive formation, she ordered. Charge all weapons and prepare for combat. The response came immediately through her communication system, that same calm human voice. General Vexathara, we strongly advise against charging your weapons. We prefer to resolve this situation without further loss of life. Your threats. Do not frighten us, human! Vexathara shouted back. We are the Zephyrian hegemony. We have conquered 47 species across this galaxy. There was a pause before Captain Vasquez responded. General, we are aware of your military history. We are also aware that you have never encountered Terran military technology. To help you understand your situation, we will provide a demonstration. Without any visible energy discharge, without any detectable weapon signature, one of the alien cruisers on the outer edge of the formation simply stopped working. Its engines shut down, its weapons powered off, its shields collapsed. The ship began drifting, dark and lifeless. Cruiser Talveth, respond! Vexathara called over the communication channel. Static answered her. All ships, report status of Cruiser Talveth. General, came the voice of Captain Mortex from a nearby destroyer. We are scanning the Talveth now. The ship appears to be intact, but we are reading no power signatures, no life signs. It's as if the entire vessel was simply switched off. Vexathara stared at her display in horror. The Talveth had been a heavy cruiser with a crew of 3,000. It carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon, yet the human ship had disabled it from 50,000 kilometers away without firing a visible shot. How? She whispered. Captain Vasquez's voice came through the communication system again. General, the Prometheus is equipped with quantum disruptors that can selectively interfere with the atomic bonds in your ship's electronics. We can disable your vessels without harming your crew, but we can also do much worse if necessary. To prove her point, another alien ship went dark. Then another. The human Dreadnought was methodically working its way through the outer ring of the alien formation, shutting down ship after ship with impossible precision. All vessels, open fire! Vexathara screamed. Target the human ship! Hundreds of plasma cannons and particle beam weapons fired at once, creating a storm of deadly energy that raced toward the Prometheus. The alien fleet's combined firepower was enough to crack a planet's crust. The energy weapons struck an invisible barrier around the human ship and simply vanished. Not reflected, not absorbed. They ceased to exist as if they had never been fired. Impossible, breathed Sensor Officer Kelvar. Our weapons are just gone. Captain Vasquez's voice remained calm. General, your weapons operate by exciting matter at the subatomic level. Our defensive systems convert that excited matter back to its base state. Your energy cannot harm us. More alien ships went dark. The Prometheus was disabling vessels faster now, sometimes 3 or 4 at once. Vexathara watched her mighty fleet, being systematically neutralized by technology she could not understand. On the human station, Commander Sarah Chen watched the battle with amazement. She had served in the Terran fleet for 15 years, but she had never seen weapons like the ones the Prometheus was using. "Commander," Lieutenant Wang said, "I'm analyzing the weapon signatures from the Dreadnought. Our computers can't even process what they're detecting. It's like the ship is using the fundamental forces of physics as weapons." Sarah activated her communication system. "Captain Vasquez, this is Commander Chen. How is it possible that we've never heard of ships like yours?" Captain Vasquez's response was immediate. "Commander Chen, the Dreadnought program is classified at the highest levels. Most of the Terran fleet doesn't know we exist. We operate independently to handle threats that conventional forces cannot manage. How many ships like yours are there?" "The Prometheus is one of 12, Commander. We have been monitoring galactic affairs for over 60 years, ensuring that no human colony faces extinction-level threats. 12 ships like this one." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. If this single vessel could destroy an entire alien fleet, what could 12 of them do? Back on the alien flagship, General Vexathara was facing the collapse of everything she had believed about military power. Half her fleet was now dark and drifting. The ships that were still active were reporting that their weapons had no effect on the human vessel. "General," Communications Officer Trendar said, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 ship captains. They want permission to abandon ship." Vexathara closed her eyes. In her 3 centuries of military service, she had never seen such a complete demonstration of superiority. Her fleet was being dismantled like toys by a technology she could not comprehend. Captain Vasquez contacted her again. "General Vexathara, we do not wish to destroy your fleet or harm your crews. However, you attacked a Terran civilian installation. This cannot be ignored." "What do you want?" Vexathara asked, her voice hollow. "We want you to understand that humanity is not the weak species you believed us to be. The ships you have been fighting belong to our civilian mining and transport services. You have never seen our actual military capabilities until today." Another wave of alien ships went dark. The Prometheus was now disabling entire squadrons with each pulse of its unknown weapons. "Your mining ships?" Vexathara asked in disbelief. "Correct, General. The Kepler station you have been attacking is defended by a small security force with outdated equipment. It was never intended to fight a military engagement. Our civilian vessels are designed for peaceful purposes." Vexathara looked at the tactical display showing the human station they had been besieging for 3 weeks. If that was just a civilian outpost with obsolete weapons, what were human military installations like? "General," Tactical Officer Zerkan reported, "we have lost 60% of our fleet. The remaining ships are requesting immediate withdrawal." More ships went dark. The Prometheus continued its methodical demonstration, showing the alien fleet that their weapons were useless and their ships helpless against human technology. "Captain," Vasquez spoke again, "General, we are prepared to allow your remaining vessels to withdraw. However, you must understand that Earth has been monitoring the Zephyrian hegemony's expansion for decades. We know about every species you have conquered, every world you have enslaved. You have been watching us? The galaxy is smaller than you think, General. Humanity has been quietly establishing monitoring stations throughout this sector. We have been aware of your activities for a very long time." Vexathara realized the terrible truth. Humanity had not been hiding from the galaxy. They had been watching it. They had allowed species like the Zephyrians to believe they were the most powerful force in space, while secretly developing technology that made them all obsolete. As more of her ships went dark, General Vexathara faced the most difficult decision of her military career. She could continue fighting and watch her entire fleet be destroyed by weapons she could not touch, or she could do something no Zephyrian general had ever done. She could retreat from a species they had thought was primitive and weak. General Vexathara stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display as more of her ships went dark. 70% of her fleet was now powerless, drifting in space like metal tombstones. The remaining vessels were sending desperate requests for orders, but she had no orders to give. For the first time in 3 centuries of military conquest, she was completely outmatched. "General," Communications Officer Trendar said quietly, "the ship captains are waiting for your command." Vexathara looked at the massive human dreadnought on her screen. The Prometheus hung in space like a dark god, its impossible technology making her entire fleet helpless. She thought about the 47 species the hegemony had conquered, about the thousands of worlds that bowed before Zephyrian power. None of that mattered now. "Send a message to all ships," she said, her voice hollow. "General withdrawal. All vessels are to leave this system immediately. The bridge crew stared at her in shock. Never in the history of the Zephyrian hegemony had a general ordered retreat from a single enemy ship. General, Tactical Officer Zerkan protested, perhaps we could try a different approach. Our quantum torpedoes might— No, Vexathera cut him off. Look at your sensors. Look at what this one ship has done to our entire fleet. We are not fighting an enemy we can defeat. She activated her communication system one final time. Captain Vasquez, this is General Vexathera. The Zephyrian fleet is withdrawing from this system. The response came immediately. General, that is a wise decision. However, before you leave, there are some things you need to understand about humanity's position in this galaxy. I understand enough, Vexathera said bitterly. We underestimated your species. No, General, you misunderstood us completely. The ships you encountered at Kepler Station, the vessels you have been fighting for 3 weeks, those were civilian craft operated by mining companies and transport guilds. You have never encountered actual Terran military vessels until today. The words hit Vexathera like a physical blow. Civilian ships. They had been fighting civilian ships for 3 weeks and had barely managed to damage them. Captain Vasquez continued. The Prometheus is one of 12 dreadnoughts in the Terran Deep Space Fleet. We have been operating in this galaxy for over 60 years, monitoring the activities of various species and ensuring that no human colony faces extinction-level threats. 60 years? Vexathera whispered. Correct. Earth became aware of hostile alien civilizations shortly after we developed faster-than-light travel. Rather than announce our presence, we chose to observe and learn. We have been watching species like yours, studying your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. On the human station, Commander Sarah Chen listened to the conversation with growing amazement. Everything she thought she knew about Earth's position in the galaxy was wrong. Humanity wasn't a young species struggling to survive among hostile aliens. They were the hidden guardians, the secret protectors. Captain Vasquez, she transmitted, how long has Earth known about the alien threat? Commander Chen, Earth has been aware of hostile alien species since 2387. The Dreadnought program was established to ensure that no human settlement would ever fall to alien aggression. Lieutenant Wong looked up from his console. Commander, that's over 60 years ago. They've been protecting us this whole time, and we never knew. Captain Vasquez's voice came through the communication system again, this time addressing the alien fleet. General Vexathera, the Zephyrian hegemony's expansion has been monitored by Earth since its beginning. We know about every species you have conquered, every world you have enslaved. We have detailed files on your military capabilities, your ship designs, your tactical doctrines. Vexathera felt sick. Humanity had been watching her people for decades, studying them like laboratory specimens while pretending to be weak and defenseless. Why? She asked. Why did you allow us to believe we were superior? Because, General, you were never actually a threat to Earth. Your technology is approximately 200 years behind our current military capabilities. We allowed you to expand your empire because you posed no danger to human space. The implications of those words struck Vexathera like lightning. The Zephyrian hegemony, with all its power and conquered worlds, was considered irrelevant by humanity. They were so far behind human technology that Earth didn't even consider them worth stopping. However, Captain Vasquez continued, attacking human civilians crosses a line we cannot ignore. The Kepler Station incident will be reported to Earth Command. Future Zephyrian actions will be monitored more closely. As the alien ships began their withdrawal, Captain Vasquez opened a private channel to the Kepler Station. Commander Chen, a rescue ship will arrive within 6 hours to evacuate your station. The Prometheus must return to patrol duties. Captain, Sarah asked, what happens now? Do we tell Earth Command about what we've seen here? Commander, your mission reports will be classified at the highest levels. Most of Earth will never know about today's events. The galaxy still sees humanity as a young, peaceful species, and we prefer to keep it that way. Sarah understood. Humanity's secret was its greatest weapon. By appearing weak, they avoided challenges from stronger species while secretly developing technology that made them the most powerful force in the galaxy. As the Prometheus prepared to leave, its massive form beginning to bend space-time around itself again, Captain Vasquez sent one final message to the alien fleet. General Vexathera, you will return to your hegemony with a message. Earth is aware of your activities and will be watching your future actions. Any further attacks on human installations will result in direct intervention by the Terran Deep Space Fleet. How many ships do you have? Vexathera asked. Enough, General. Far more than enough. The Prometheus began to fade from visual sensors as it folded space around itself. Within minutes, the massive dreadnought had vanished completely. leaving only empty space where it had been. On her flagship, General Vexathera stared at the empty display screen. Around her, the bridge crew worked in stunned silence as they prepared for the long journey home. 70% of her fleet was powerless and would need to be towed back to Zephyrian space. She thought about the report she would have to write for High Command. How could she explain that the entire fleet had been defeated by a single ship? How could she tell them that humanity, the species they thought was weak and primitive, was actually the most advanced civilization in the galaxy? As the alien fleet limped away from the Kepler system, Captain Maria Vasquez sat in the command center of the Prometheus and began writing her own report. The log entry would be filed in the deepest archives of Earth Command, read only by those with the highest security clearances. Mission log, Captain Maria Vasquez, UES Prometheus. Intervention at Kepler Station, successful. Zephyrian fleet neutralized, without casualties. Alien forces have withdrawn from Terran space. She paused, looking out at the stars through the ship's main viewport. Personal note: the galaxy continues to see humanity as young, peaceful, and technologically inferior. This perception remains our greatest strategic advantage. As long as potential enemies underestimate us, Earth's colonies remain safe. She finished the log entry and sealed it with her command codes. Soon, the Prometheus would return to its patrol route along the galactic rim, watching for threats that most of humanity would never know existed. The secret was safe. The galaxy still believed humans were weak and defenseless. And in the deep space beyond the outer colonies, 11 other dreadnoughts continued their silent watch, ensuring that no human world would ever face the fate that had almost befallen. Kepler Station. Humanity's greatest victory was that no one knew they had already won.